how do you actually keep a machine perfectly on target without it crashing? I mean, in a perfect, theoretical world, things just do exactly what we tell them to, right? But we live in an unpredictable reality. We're dealing with a world full of sudden wind gusts, shifting gravity, and totally unpredictable friction. Maintaining absolute precision in the face of all that chaos is quite literally one of the greatest engineering hurdles of our time. Let's contrast a couple of really relatable scenarios to see why this is so tough. Picture this, you're driving a car on cruise control, cruising along nicely at 65 miles per hour on a completely flat highway. Maintaining that speed, piece of cake. But what happens when you suddenly hit a really steep mountain incline? Gravity violently pulls against the vehicle, right? Suddenly your speed drops down to 50 miles per hour. If you've got a dumb, panicking cruise control system, it's just gonna slam the gas, overshoot the target way up to 80 miles per hour, and keep surging back and forth, just violently jerking you around. A system that surges chaotically like that is, well, it's completely useless. Now, what's absolutely fascinating about this problem is that it applies across almost all industries. Whether we're talking about an automated drone desperately fighting to hover steady in severe wind gusts, a super high-end espresso machine trying to hold water at exactly 93.0 degrees Celsius, or even a Tesla driving smoothly through stop-and-go traffic, they all face the exact same physical challenge. And the hidden brain solving this everywhere, across literally all these devices, is called the PID controller. So to really understand the PID controller, we've got to break down the core language of precision. Before any automated system can make a decision, it basically has to ask itself one fundamental question. How far away are we from where we want to be? And that brings us to the error equation. Error equals SP minus PV. Now, the set point, or SP, that's our target goal. The process variable, or PV, well, that's our current, measured reality. Okay, let's make that abstract math instantly concrete. If your target goal is 65 miles per hour and your current reality is 55, that positive 10 miles per hour gap is literally the pulse of the system. That is the exact gap the machine is desperately trying to close. And to close that gap, a PID controller continually monitors this error. We're talking thousands of times per second, using three really distinct lenses of time. The P looks at the present, the I looks at the past, and the D looks at the future. So today, we're going to look at what actually happens when you try to drive an automated system using each of these distinct time-based terms completely on their own. Let's kick things off with the first letter. Proportional, or P, looks at the present. This is the most immediate lens. You can basically think of it as the raw muscle of the system. It only cares about how big the error is right now in this exact passing moment, and it just reacts accordingly. The absolute best way to visualize proportional control is through the rubber band metaphor. I want you to imagine a literal rubber band connecting your actual car to your target speed. A small error means the rubber band is only stretched a tiny bit, which results in a gentle, easy press on the gas pedal. But a huge error? Oh man, that rubber band is stretched incredibly tight, pulling massively, which causes the system to just slam the pedal all the way to the floor. The physical pull is directly proportional to how far behind the car actually falls. And the math behind that rubber band is just beautifully simple. Proportional output is simply the current error multiplied by a tuning gain called KP. It is just a direct, immediate flex of the muscle. But here's the catch. Proportional control has a massive, fatal flaw. It's called steady-state error, or an offset. Think back to our car climbing that steep mountain. As gravity pulls the car down, the rubber band stretches, right? And the gas pedal pushes back. But eventually, they just balance out in this stalemate. The car gets stuck forever at 58 miles per hour, fighting against gravity. And why does that happen? Because at 58 miles per hour, that remaining 7 miles per hour of error produces just enough rubber band tension to hold the car steady, but not enough to actually accelerate it any further. Since the error never hits zero, the rubber band just stops pulling harder, literally trapping the car forever below the set point. No way around it. So to eliminate that offset and untrap the car, the system desperately needs memory. And this brings us to the I. Integral looks at the past. It doesn't care how big the error is right now, it cares about how long we've been failing to reach our goal. Here is a super helpful way to visualize this: the bucket filling analogy. Step 1, the car is sitting there stuck at 58 miles per hour. Step 2, every single second we remain stuck, imagine a bucket continually filling up with that unfulfilled error. It's just adding up history. Then step 3, as that bucket gets heavier and heavier with all this accumulated historical error, it physically forces the throttle to gradually open wider and wider. This extra growing push eventually forces the car all the way up to 65 miles per hour, completely wiping out that steady state offset. And this brilliantly illustrates how the math directly matches the analogy. Notice the integration symbol in the formula there? That means it's continually summing up the error over time. By adding up the historical error second after second, the integral term gives the system the sheer endurance to wipe out that lingering gap. But I gotta warn you, adding memory introduces a totally new danger. Overshoot hacky. This is specifically caused by something called integral windup. You see, by the time our car finally claws its way up to 65 miles per hour, the integral bucket is completely overflowing with stored historical error. Because of all that accumulated history, the controller just keeps pressing the gas pedal entirely too long after hitting the target. And the result? The car rockets way past 65 miles per hour, up to a highly unsafe 78 miles per hour. So clearly, we've got a huge problem with momentum here. To stop this wild momentum and prevent these massive overshoots, we need foresight. And that is the final piece of our puzzle, the D. Derivative looks at the future. You can really just think of derivative control as a predictive shock absorber. As the formula shows, the derivative output reacts to the slope, or, the rate of change, of the error over time. Derivative doesn't care about the present error size at all. It completely ignores the past. It focuses entirely on how incredibly fast the error is changing right now, so it can predict where the system will be in the future. So what does the predictive shock absorber actually do in practice? Well, if the car is accelerating toward the 65 mile per hour target way too quickly, the derivative term sees that the error gap is shrinking at a rapid, really dangerous rate. It basically realizes an overshoot is imminent, so it actually generates a counterthrust. It eases off the throttle before crossing the finish line, dampening the momentum and landing the car softly at exactly 65 miles per hour with zero wild oscillations. It is literally the ultimate predictive brake. Now, we bring everything together into the full master equation. When you combine all three of these terms, you get this absolutely beautiful symphony of control. We have P, the raw muscle driving the present. We have I, the memory ensuring absolute past precision and removing offsets. And we have D, the predictive brake ensuring future stability. Adding P, I, and D together generates the exact perfect control output to handle whatever chaotic reality throws at the machine. So how do engineers actually use this math in the real world? They do it through loop tuning. If you've ever spent hours tweaking a 3D printer or messing with a drone, this part is going to sound super familiar. Let me guide you through the 1-2-3 step framework for manual tuning. First, you increase P until the system responds quickly but just begins to oscillate. Second, you introduce D, increasing it to act as that shock absorber and really dampen out those wild oscillations. Finally, step 3, you slowly increase I just enough to wipe out any final lingering steady-state offset. And boom, just like that, you've turned abstract calculus into a highly applicable real-world skill. So the absolute crucial point here is that perfect precision requires teamwork between all three terms. Just to summarize this up for you, proportional looks at the present to provide the main driving force, but its big weakness is that steady-state error. Integral looks at the past to solve that offset, but its weakness is overshoot. And derivative looks at the future to dampen those oscillations, acting as the ultimate stabilizer. It really is incredible when you take a step back and look at it all. Perfect mechanical precision isn't magic. It's just a brilliantly executed mathematical balancing act of time. We're talking the present, the past, and the future perfectly aligned. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Considering that they run our espresso machines, our drones, our cars, and almost every single automated factory on Earth, how many hidden PID loops do you think you interacted with just today? Honestly, they are everywhere.